All right. Are we all set, Kevin?
Yeah, hello everybody. Happy New Year. My name is Kevin Bargness. I'm with the communications team at the Department of Planning and Development. Please be advised this meeting is being recorded and live streamed to the department's YouTube page for later viewing. You can go ahead, Kim. Thanks.
Thanks, Kevin. Again, hi, everybody. My name is Kim Brisky. I'm the Director of Communications at Summer Corps. We administer the Spiff program on behalf of the Department of Planning and Development. Today, we'll be covering the January 2022 district rollout and also just details about how to apply for the Spiff program. And you'll be able to answer or ask questions throughout just by using the Q&A box at the bottom of the screen. And everybody will receive a copy of this presentation via email. We also know that there has been a lot of interest in the Chicago Recovery Plan grant. That will not be covered in today's presentation, but we will provide the link and information so that you can attend a presentation on that tomorrow. And with that, I'm going to turn it over to Nora at the Department of Planning and Development.
Hi, everybody. Again, my name is Nora Curry. Thanks, Kim, for introducing me. I'm Nora Curry. I'm the director of the Spiff program for the Department of Planning and Development, partnered again with Summer Corps, our administrator for the Spiff program. And I just want to thank you and welcome you to the webinar today. Thanks for coming. We are excited to have you starting off our 2022 rollout season. And as some of you may know, that the city rolled out our largest infusion of cash into the Spiff program in our 20-year history at the beginning of 2021, with a 3-year funding plan of $60 million in over 60 TIFs citywide. And we are rolling that out, as I said, over 3 years in TIFs all over the city, and including available balances, we will be opening over 50 TIFs this year. So there are 7 Spiffs opening in January. And you will need, if you're in those TIFs, you will need to apply this month. And LaTanya from Summer Corps will be giving you more details about that. Along with our new funding, we also made some improvements to the program, including larger grant maximums and being able to help you more. Now we are able to fund commercial projects up to 90% of project costs. So we are thrilled to be able to provide more assistance to Chicago businesses, especially during these extremely trying times. And anyway, I will let LaTanya get talking, and we hope you'll be able to use the Spiff program. Thanks a lot.
Thank you, Nora. Hi again, my name is LaTanya Jones. I am the Deputy Director of the Spiff program here at Summer Corps. Summer Corps is a certified small business lender, and we help administer 504 loans, as well as we work with the City of Chicago with the Spiff program and the NOF program. So today we will get into this. These are the things that we will cover in our presentation today. We will cover the eligibility requirements, how you can go about if your business or property is located in a TIF district, what districts are open for this month as well as on deck, go a little bit more into the program rules, how you can go about applying, what does the program timeline look like, as well as provide you with a set of resources that are available to help you through this process. We also will provide you with the January rollout information, as well as give you an example of a project. And then we'll follow up with some Spiff frequently asked questions and some additional questions that anyone might have during the course of this presentation. And then I think we're gonna sum up the presentation with just briefly discussing the Chicago Recovery Grant. So since 1999, the Spiff program has been helping small businesses and landlords with reimbursable grants for permanent building improvements. Please note that residential projects are not eligible through this program. Typically, Spiff grants uses local tax increment financing revenue to reimburse grantees for the pre-approved repair and rehab of their business facility or adjacent land acquisition. Summer Court is the program administrator contracted by the city's Department of Planning and Development. So during this time in the presentation, we actually will hand it over to one of our grantees that did go through the grant program and received a grant through this program, and I'll hand it over to Sherry Spellers.
Hello, everyone. I am Sherry Spellers, owner operator of Amore Salon Suites. I've opened up in 1998, and as you can see, the building needed much updates, many updates. And my mission is to offer private beauty services and private suites. And we also have a private suite available. And one of our issues with our grant was we happened to own our property. So we ran across a lot of unforeseen costs. But when I tell you, I received so much help and support from the city, starting with the zoning department, with Anna and Mary, they helped me a lot starting there. And also Sylvia from Summer Corps, I stayed on the phone with her many times. But I would tell anyone to please, please, please fill out the paperwork. It's very worth it in the end. I'm in Bronzeville, which is an up and coming area. I received so much help. I am forever grateful. And anyone can call me with any questions, because when I received the email that I got $121,000 from the city of Chicago to pay towards my loan, I was blown away. So I'm very thankful, and thank you for having me on here. I would tell anyone, please go fill out the paperwork. You have a big support system with the city of Chicago, Summer Corps, and zoning if you have to deal with that. It's well worth your time. Just have to keep up with your timelines and fill out all of the paper and get your all of your paperwork done at a timely fashion, and go get someone that's licensed and bonded, and they'll keep them liable and make sure that you get your work done and everyone gets paid on time.
Okay, thank you so much, Sherry.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so going into the eligibility requirements, as an applicant, first and foremost, the property must be located in a TIF district where SBIF funds are available, and the SBIF is authorized to accept applications during that time. And the type of applicants that can apply would be landlords, whether it's of a commercial or industrial property, a business owner of a commercial or industrial property, and you can either own the building or you can lease the space. Tenants are eligible to apply with prior approval from the property owner, as well as startup businesses are eligible. But we will ask from startups that they do provide us with a detailed business plan. And if they do not have a business license at that time, they will need to provide one before receiving a reimbursement. And then in regards to the eligibility requirements, depending on the type of applicant you are, there will be certain items that we will request from you to determine your eligibility. So if you are a commercial tenant or owner occupied, you have to fall within the boundaries of average 9 million or less gross sales per year. As a landlord, we cumulatively look at the net worth, and it has to be under 9 million or less and cannot exceed the 500,000 liquid assets per individual. And then for industrial tenant or owner occupied, can exceed 200 full-time employees. And please note that all owner occupied properties are subject to both tenant and landlord requirements. So going into the grant parameters of the maximum grant allowed under this program, For industrial property, you'll be eligible to receive up to $250,000. As a single owner or tenant of a commercial property, or you're a landlord, you'll be eligible to receive $150,000. And if you are a tenant of a multi-property space, as well as the landlord applies as well, each of those applicants will be eligible for $75,000, but the property cannot receive no more than $250,000. Applicants may receive one or more grants up to their maximum program assistance, but once the maximum is reached, the applicant will need to wait until 3 years to reapply. And getting into the percentages of the eligible project costs that can be reimbursed. If you are a commercial applicant and your sales fall within 0 to 3 million or your net worth, you'll be eligible to receive 90% of the eligible cost. If your sales or net worth falls within 3 million to 6 million, you'll be eligible to receive 60% reimbursement of the eligible cost. If it's 6 to 9 million in sales or net worth, you'll be eligible to receive 30% of the eligible cost. And all industrial projects are capped at 50% of the eligible cost for reimbursement. Here we have a grant example that will help you get an idea of how the breakdown would work for reimbursement. So Grace submits an application for a Spiff grant in an open district with a total eligible project cost of $100,000. She is proposing to make permanent building improvements to her existing retail shop, for which she is the tenant. Grace has been in business for 5 years, and over the last 5 years, her gross sales average 1.5 million. Here's the breakdown of the eligible costs as follows. So with the total eligible project cost of $100,000, and with her being a commercial tenant and her gross sales are under 3 million, she will be eligible for the 90% reimbursement. And with that being said, the city's responsibility will be at the 90%, which will mean she will get $90,000 back. And then the applicant's responsibility will be $10,000. So getting into how you can go about determining if your business or property is located in the Spiff district, please visit the summercore.com/Spiff website to see if your property is in a Spiff district. And as you can see here on the website, you will go to number 1 and select that. And it will take you to the eligibility page where you will have to input your address information. And once you hit search address, it will let you know if your property is located in a TIF district, as well as if we're accepting applications for that area, as well as provide you with your local delegate agency information. Next, if you are looking to see what eligible districts are open or on deck, each month we do have a 30-day period in which districts that have available funding are open for applications are listed. The best way to do that is on the summercore/Spiff website, and you'll be able to check which Spiff districts are open, and that will take you to another link that will list the current districts that are open, as well as the districts that will be opening the following month. So what type of businesses and organizations are ineligible to apply? So this list here is not listed in its entirety, but these are similar uses that are not eligible. And that's in reference to chains and franchise businesses, branch banks, labor employment agencies, currency exchanges, payday and title secure loan stores, pawn shops, fortune teller services, liquor stores, nightclubs, adult uses, private clubs, schools, gas stations, firearm dealers, places of worship, smoke shops or cigar lounges, tobacco dealers, residential storage warehouses, trailer storage yards, junkyards, not-for-profit social clubs, or not-for-profit organizations that have a national affiliation. So the type of improvement costs that are eligible through this program are usually in reference to the structural related improvements such as roofing and facade work, the structural components of a signage or awning, which is affixed to the building, alterations or structures needed for ADA compliance, HVAC improvements or other mechanical systems, plumbing and electrical work, certain project-related costs associated to architectural or construction management for your project, certain environmental remediation measures, permanent interior renovations, including fixtures, as well as the purchase of adjacent land parcels for the purpose of expanding the business or for parking. So getting into the ineligible type of improvements that are not eligible through this program would be referring to any new construction that can be additions or expansions or ground up improvements, any standalone minor repairs or cosmetic improvements, anything associated with equipment related expenses, planners surrounding or affixed to the building, fencing, parking lot, construction or repairs, landscaping or residential renovations. And that list is not like if there is ever a question about any improvements that you're not sure are covered under this program, we'll definitely be able to assist you. All you have to do is just reach out to us and we can let you know what's eligible. What are the Spiff design requirements? In order to receive funding, projects must conform to design requirements, including meeting DPD's design guidelines, and that information can be found at the summercorps.com Spiff website. The project shall also comply with design guidelines and additional neighborhood requirements as described in guidelines, style guides, community plans, and other planning documents associated with the TIF area and neighborhood in which the property is located. Applicants are strongly advised to consult with Summer Corps and planning professionals, design professionals, on design requirements and guidelines before drawing up plans for work. All applicants for commercial properties who are approved for a grant of $25,000 or more shall be required to make at least one exterior improvement, including at least 10% of the maximum amount of their approved grant. And this can be including facade improvements, windows and doors, and other exterior improvements eligible subject to DPD approval. This requirement can be waived at DPD's sole discretion if the applicant can demonstrate to DPD's satisfaction that no exterior improvements are needed because the improvements have been recently completed or the exterior feature of the building have been well maintained and are consistent with the design guidelines. So what measures are in place to ensure applicant compliance with program rules? Checks will be performed on all applicants prior to funding to ensure that they are not indebted to the city. are current on property taxes and complying with child support laws. Each applicant will sign an affidavit, the economic disclosure affidavit. Grantees will be required to sign an affidavit certifying that they will not relocate out of the TIF district or sell the business within a 3-year period following the disbursement of funds. In cases of Spiff reimbursement for land purchases, proof of land ownership will be required before reimbursements are released. So how can you go about applying? The copy of the application can be found at summercore.com/spiff. And as you can see in the lower part of the screen here where it says click to complete the application, it will be a fillable PDF for you to complete. And once you have that completed, you can email it over to spiff@summercore.com within the designated open period. So what is the Spiff program timeline? So after you have submitted your application during acceptance period, and we follow up with you to move forward with your application, these are the steps in how you would move forward. So starting off with stage 1, this will be the time frame where you will provide us with all of your missing documents that we need to complete your application. And we usually give you up to 20 days to complete that information. And once we receive all of your completed documents and determine your eligibility, then you'll be able to move into stage 2. And stage 2 is the construction planning phase where you provide the plans, bids, and specs for your project. And we also make sure that debt is cured during that process before you can move forward. And you usually have 120 days to provide that information. And please note that stage 1 and stage 2 must be completed before final review and project approval by DPD. If approved, you will receive a conditional commitment letter signaling you to begin construction. And once you receive your conditional commitment letter, you are given 10 months, up to 10 months to complete the project. But during that 10 months, there will be a halfway point of 120 days where you would have to provide us with the proof of permit or permit application, as well as providing us with the proof of funds to show that you have sufficient funds available to complete your project. And then following the date of the commitment letter, well, you have 120 days from the date of the commitment letter. The applicant must prove they currently have sufficient equity to complete the project. At least 50% of the funds are needed to cover the total project cost. And once we have all of the payment documentation and no additional information is needed from you and you completed your project, then you go into the stage 4 process. And that's when we would process your reimbursement, which typically takes up to 4 to 6 weeks. Unless DPD has granted an extension of time, applicants who do not complete each stage within the required phase time limit will be disqualified. A maximum of 2 extensions may be granted with DPD's approval in the case of an unavoidable delay due to extraordinary circumstances. DPD, not Summer Corps, also may on a case-by-case basis grant eligible application an additional amount of time to complete any program requirements. In such case, DPD shall have the discretion to determine the appropriate length of the extension. So what is required to deem a project completed and receive grant funds? Required proof of payment documentation is sent to Summer Corps for review, and that consists of the sworn statements, invoices, canceled checks, and waivers of lien. Summer Corps also will complete a final site visit. You'll submit copies of all building permits. And within 4 to 6 weeks, the grant payment will be received by check. Please note that this process does not refer to any escrow projects. This is only for non-escrow projects. So what type of resources are available to help? So on the summercorps.com/SBIF website, you'll see a list of resources that will be there to help you through any part of the process. Also, please make sure to get to know your local delegate agencies. We have listed all of the delegate agencies for this district. Definitely feel free to reach out to them and answer and ask any questions as far as how they can help you through this process as well. So for the districts for January, these are the districts that are open until February 1st. And the deadline to have that information, the cutoff time is at 5 p.m. All applications can be submitted via email to spiff@summercorps.com. Please allow at least 2 business days for Summer Corps to confirm receipt of your application via email response. If you do not receive an email confirmation within this time, please send a follow-up message or call us at 312-360-3300. Applicants are responsible for making sure submissions are received within the open acceptance period. And here is a sample project. This is Limitless Creative Company. It's located in the Pilsen Industrial Corridor. This is image, I believe they did work on the facade and some interior renovations. As you can see, there was a complete difference in the original picture and after picture. They did a complete gut rehab to the inside as well as the facade. And their work summary included roofing work, new overhead garage doors, storefront windows, interior and exterior stairwells, masonry repairs, expanding the restrooms and doing a build out. They did framing work, new flooring, electrical, HVAC, plumbing, and some fireproofing. So what additional documents should you have on hand to submit along with your SBIF application? So that would include your business tax returns, proof of ownership, economic disclosure statements, personal financial statements, child support forms, principal profile form, jobs created survey. For startups, like mentioned previously, we would need the detailed business plan that also shows 3-year projected income and expenses, executed lease agreement, affidavit and certification of the property owner, an affidavit of full-time employees, which is reference to industrial applicants, as well as copy of tenant leases. While not required to submit this information along with your initial application, please note that these items are required to complete your SBIF application process. And they vary depending on the type of applicant that you are. What are the financial requirements to participate in the SBIF program? The SBIF program is a reimbursable grant, so project applicants should be prepared with financing to support the permanent building improvements. Proof of financing is not required until stage 3, but applicants are encouraged to contact their business lender or reach out to one of the lenders listed on the Summer Corps website in a timely manner. Grantees may choose to receive their grant funds through an escrow account. DPD, in its sole discretion, may authorize up to 3 draws of funding from the escrow account to reimburse an applicant as work is completed on a project. Any fees associated with the use of an escrow account will be taken out of the grant amount, the grant award, I'm sorry. Are startups or new businesses eligible? Yes, most startups are eligible to apply. Startup applicants will need to supply a detailed business plan and projections of the business income and expenses for the last 3 years, for the first 3 years of operation as part of their application materials. The City of Chicago reserves the right to impose additional conditions for funding in connection with startup business applications. If you only have been in business for 1 or 2 years, Summer Corps will require tax returns and a projection of gross sales to equal 3 years of data. Please note that bars, taverns, hotels, and motel applicants must have held their applicable license and have been in business for at least 1 calendar year. Am I eligible if I live outside of Chicago? The important consideration is where you have your business and property. To participate in SBIF, your property must be located in the City of Chicago as the funding source comes from city property taxes. If you live in another area, please call your city's planning, economic development, or community development department to see what other programs may be available to assist small businesses. What if my building has both business and residential spaces? This program is primarily for the business use, but there are mixed use exceptions. For these buildings, many envelope properties such as roofing, facade improvements, and tuck pointing can be eligible. Will there be enough SBIF funds for all applicants? Each tax increment financing district that has the SBIF program authorized in it has limited funds reserved for the program. If the demand for SBIF funds is greater than the amount available, then a lottery will be conducted to determine the order in which each grant applicant may be accommodated. If any surplus funds become available, they will be allocated to waitlisted applicants. Applicants located at a property within a Invest Southwest corridor shall be given priority for funding and the lottery. Applicants or a property located in a target corridor shall be in second priority for funding and the lottery. The remaining applicants shall be provided funding if available and placed on the wait list if applicable after applicants in the Invest Southwest corridors and oh, my screen got cut off at the bottom, I'm sorry. Okay, there we go. Is there SBIF funding available in my district? Every SBIF area has its own budget that the city refills if it has TIF funds available, and if there is a demonstrated need for more grant money. Email the SBIF team at spiff@summercorps.com to see if there are funds in your SBIF area. We also maintain an interested party list for funds, which you can also send an email to our email to join, and when funding becomes available for that area or the city accolates more funds, we will let you know. The interested party list helps the City of Chicago gauge demand for additional funding. What if I am in a TIF district and it is not a SBIF? Tax increment financing is a mechanism that the funds, the Small Business Improvement Fund, If you are in a TIF district and it is not a SBIF, please contact your alderman. And here is the contact information for us here at Summer Corps, as well as for our contact at DPD, Nora Curry. If you have any questions or need additional information, you can definitely feel free to reach out to us by phone or by email. And that concludes our presentation. Are there any questions?
Thanks, LaTanya. That was awesome. I'm going to just say, anybody at this time, if you have questions, feel free to put them in the Q&A box at the bottom of your screen. Additionally, just one last reminder, we will be sending out a copy of this presentation afterwards via email, so you'll be able to grab the contact information for the delegate agencies and for us. LaTanya, I always like to start off with first question being, what's one of the most common sort of stumbling blocks or a pain point for applicants that you think, for folks who are first-time applicants for SBIF, and what can they do to address that?
I think one of the main hurdles are applicants not reaching out to us enough if they're unsure about, what type of information we need from them, or if they have questions about their application, to just reach out to us and ask us any questions that they might have, or reach out to the delegate agencies to walk them through the process, but use us as a tool to help them get through the program.
That's helpful. I think one question that I've seen is, what if somebody already completed construction on an upgrade or recently got started with one? Will they be able to be reimbursed for that type of work through the SBIF program?
Unfortunately, any work that has been started or completed before applying for the program, as well as getting approved for the grant to start construction, will not be eligible. So you will not get a reimbursement if any work is done prior to receiving approval from the city.
Got it. So a couple of questions here. This one is asking, can a tenant and a property owner both apply for a grant? For example, if both the tenant and property owner have paid for improvements to the property, is the one application or two separate ones?
It will be two separate ones. So there will be one separately for the work that the tenant will complete. And then there'll be another application for the landlord that will be separate from what the tenant lists. But with that, each application is maxed at $75,000. So I guess in that situation, it's just determining if the landlord wants to receive more than $75,000, then the tenant would not be eligible to apply if the landlord is looking for doing more work than what the tenant has listed.
So I suppose that regardless if it's a tenant or the landlord, there's always the $150,000 limit for a commercial space will be in place, whether it's two people participating or one. Is that correct?
Yes.
Another question is, are live music venues with a liquor license eligible?
Maybe I should speak to that one, LaTanya. This is Nora.
Okay, great.
Yeah. So we newly have, we now allow, new this year, bars to apply for SBIF. And but we have some special rules around it that LaTanya mentioned in the presentation. And so live music venues are sometimes also bars. Sometimes they're more like theaters. And what we don't permit is nightclubs. So the reason that I thought we should answer this live is that there are some kind of caveats in this. The general answer would be yes, music venues with a liquor license are generally eligible, but what we would look out for is, we want to make sure that it's not a nightclub, we are also going to look for things like how long have you been open? We're going to look for, and we're going to run a check on the business to make sure that there aren't any, I'm forgetting the language, I think that you mentioned it, LaTanya, in the presentation, but that there aren't any
Nuisance complaints?
nuisances, thank you, on the record that are bad for the community. Obviously, entertainment venues can be great for communities, but there are some problematic businesses. I think we all know some of them. And we just want to make sure that our applicants are contributing members of their community. So with those caveats, yes, they are generally eligible.
Thanks, Nora.
Uh-huh.
One question we received was, somebody keeps adding them in, they keep moving here. Do we need to ask or let our aldermen know that we apply for Spiff?
So the answer to that one is you do not. We will tell them as part of your application, when you get to the second phase, which is when you're getting your bids and we're checking your scofflaw. We do, as a courtesy, let aldermen know that there's an active Spiff application. Spiff does not require aldermanic approval, and Spiff is not a selective program. It's not, if you apply and you're eligible and we have enough money, everybody who applies for Spiff and follows all the rules gets Spiff. We don't pick winners in this program. But it is still a good idea to talk to your alderman, let them know what you're doing. And, sometimes you do need support from your alderman for other things that you're doing with your project. You may want a zoning change. You may need a liquor license. You may be working on signs. All of those things are just good things to be in touch with your alderman about. Often alderman can be very helpful in getting other kinds of support or other things moving. If you have any issues with slow permits or, I don't know, maybe there's broken sidewalks in front of your building. Maybe there are other projects going on in the area that you don't know about that the alderman may know about. So it's never a bad idea to speak to your alderman. It's also helpful to the program. There's another question later about if my property is in a TIF district, but not in a SPIF, what do you need from the alderman? It is good for the alderman to know how much interest there is in SPIF for those areas where we do have a lot of interest in SPIF, but may not have enough funding to fund everybody. It is very good for the alderman to know that so they can put it in the budget for TIF. We do need, where the aldermen do come into play in terms of funding for TIF, is they support the initial funding for the larger amount of funding. So if we have $500,000 or $1 million available overall in the SPIF, the alderman has offered their support to, they'll vote for it in city council. They set aside that money so that we can open it for applications at all. So they don't support the individual projects, but city council does need to vote to support having SPIF in the TIF at all, if that makes sense for people. So that's why you'd want to talk to your alderman.
Right. Yeah. If your area doesn't have SPIF and you want to participate, got to let them know. Otherwise, they may not understand that there's interest in their area. Thanks,
Yeah, they can be a very important ally.
Absolutely. Nora, did you want to answer this one about our condo buildings eligible for this type of funding?
Well, I think maybe LaTanya and I can tag team on it. Residential uses are not eligible, but if a condominium building is a mixed use building and has commercial on the first floor and then residential above, then the commercial uses on the first floor would be eligible, correct, LaTanya?
Yes, that is correct.
So just like any other mixed use building, that would be true. But the residential uses would not be eligible for SPIF specifically.
Right.
And I don't know if you want to expand on that.
No, I think you pretty much covered it. It's just as long as the commercial spaces provide us with all of the information that we need, then they shouldn't have any issues.
Okay.
Awesome. We've got quite a few questions today, which is great. One question, LaTanya, is they were speaking specifically about how specific does the application have to be when you're itemizing all the project budget items. they specifically were like, hey, that Limitless project is pretty big. Like, how could they have known amounts when they were applying? Can you talk about like rough estimates, if that's eligible? How would that work?
Sure. So you don't have to be like spot on, because we know this is just, you don't have to like go through the process of getting estimates to know the true cost of things, but just give us a good estimate so that we know how much we need to reserve for your project to ensure that it's an accurate grid amount reserved for you. And it doesn't have to be detailed, just rough estimate. Doesn't have to be on the dollar. If you just want to put down 30,000, that's totally fine.
Got it. And we just have one question wanting to clarify. So to clarify, an owner operator, somebody who owns the space and operates their business, can apply. Somebody who's the actual landlord can apply, but also an actual tenant can also apply. Not the property owner, just the tenant there can apply, but they must have permission from the landlord. Is that correct?
That is correct.
Excellent. One question was, those membership co-working spaces, would that be considered a private club, or would a co-working space be eligible for SBIF funding?
A co-working space would be eligible. I guess it's kind of one of those things where once we take a look at the application, we might ask you additional information just to get an idea of how that business is set up. But you shouldn't have an issue with applying if it's a co-working space.
Got it. I think we are going to hear maybe more and more about this question, but is the can we combine SBIF grant funding with other grants from the city of Chicago? How would that work?
So Nora always discussed this, and I don't want to say it the wrong way.
I can do that. So any assistance that you get from other city programs would be taken out of your SBIF grant, with the exception of a Class 6B, or there are Cook County tax incentives. If you're getting that, like a tax reduction, those would not count against your SBIF grant. But if you're working on if you've got a TIF, for example, that's the same bucket of money. And we would just say, get your TIF grant. SBIF and TIF are essentially the same thing. You only want to get the TIF. We're not going to give you SBIF for that. We would encourage you to apply for both SBIF and NOF at the same time. However, the Neighborhood Opportunity Fund, that is not open right now. I'm not sure when their next open period is, but if you're in the qualifying area for NOF, you can certainly apply for both. However, if you do get accepted into both programs, you will need to choose between the two. We can't give you funding for both for the same project. There are you can use both after 3 years. You can then apply again for one or the other, again, not for the same project, but if you have a second project that you want to fund, you can then apply for the new program. But yeah, you can't sort of double dip on the same project with different city programs.
That's helpful, Nora. On that, somebody specifically asked about NOF. As a reminder, Summer Corps does administer the NOF program as well. To my knowledge, there has not been a date set for the next application period, but I would anticipate something in the spring of 2022, just for anybody thinking ahead. Back to the mixed use building discussion, Latanya. We know that they can use the SBIF funding for the commercial space, but what about the common areas like roof, back stairs, things like that? Would that be eligible to use SBIF funding?
It would be, I guess we will have to look into it further. Usually if it's like a condo building, like business, usually we would only cover the areas of that business space and not the common areas, especially if the common areas are shared with the residential.
Yeah, I think it's a lot about the envelope portion of what would be covered for a mixed use building. And I think that may have to be a case by case question. So we've seen this question sometimes. This is somebody who's in the process of purchasing the commercial property, but what if the purchase is not complete prior to the February 1st deadline? They hope to close it by February or sooner. Can they submit the application at this point, even though they don't have the actual sales agreement completed?
That's fine. We won't hold it against you. We know sometimes in this program, some people don't actually close on it until after the acceptance period. So it is good to submit the application now, but whichever project manager that you deal with, you can discuss with them as far as the timeline of when you are expected to close on the property. But long as you wouldn't be able to get approval until you actually have acquired the property.
That's right. Site control is a requirement either by lease or by the purchase agreement owning it. Regardless, to move forward, you need to have it. You know, we're not in the business of waiting a lot of time, but if it's going to be close to the deadline, we're okay to move forward with that. Okay, let's see. I have a very specific 504 question, so I'll hold off on that. From a tenant's perspective, what can be renovated using the SBIF if the tenant doesn't own the property? I think the question is sort of like, if they're the tenant and not the landlord, is there a limitation in terms of what can actually be done? Is there some type of give and take or conversation that the tenant would have to have with the landlord?
Yes, so in the eligibility part of the process, we do have a form that the tenant will need to get the property owner to complete. And that just pretty much lists the items that they're interested in doing. That's kind of a discussion that the property owner and tenant will need to have in regards to what the tenant will be able to do. And once they get approval from the property owner, that will probably be the only list of items that they can do in order to go through the process.
Great. So this is exciting. We have somebody on here who is applying for an SBA 504 loan, which LaTanya mentioned earlier, that in addition to administering grants for the city of Chicago, Summer Core is a certified development company, which means that we originate and service SBA 504 loans. They're primarily for the purchase of fixed assets. So that's going to be like commercial real estate and equipment. We have somebody who's asking, so if they're in the process of applying for the 504 loan to purchase an actual building, and they're going to be doing renovations. So the question is whether or not what things they should pick to wait and have with the Spiff grant versus what they should actually have under the loan. And it's a tricky timeline question. I mean, for me, I think there's also the question is you don't know when your district is going to be open again. So if there's anything that you absolutely need for operations, I would probably stick it with the loan because at least you know when that will be complete. And additionally, going back to the page that we have about what types of improvements are eligible for Spiff, you know, there are a lot of more cosmetic things that may not be eligible for Spiff, but certainly you can use potentially like fixtures and things like that for the 504. So this might be a little bit more in depth. And if you want, you can send me an email to this person who asked the 504 question. My email is just K Brisky. That's K as in Kim, B as in boy, R-I, S as in Sam, K-Y at summercore.com. Let me go back. So, and I might be able to, I'm not on here actually. And I might be able to at least connect you with the loan officer. If you have a more specific question, we can try to get there. I don't know, LaTanya, do you have anything else to add other from the Spiff side other than making sure you're it's eligible for Spiff funding before you wait on it?
Yeah, no, I think you pretty much covered. The big thing is if there's anything that absolutely needs to get done like now rather than waiting a couple months down the line through the process, it's best to, you know, be able to know which ones you want to include is the important factor.
Yeah, I agree. All right. And so quickly, just as we mentioned at the top, while Summer Corps is not involved specifically in the Chicago Recovery Grant, we wanted to make sure that you were aware that this is a new grant program that is actually going on right now through the DPD that's really focused on development, construction, renovation to do permanent capital improvement projects. This is really a cool opportunity that's just getting started here, and it's open to business owners and property owners and developers as well. This is really about commercial spaces. So again, residential only, not available at this time. These projects are really focused on catalytic improvements that'll have a big local impact, similar to sort of how the NOF program is categorized, meaning there's really an emphasis on who's going to make the impact and who's going to be shovel ready to go in 2022. And special interest will be paid to locations that are in historically disinvested areas like the Invest Southwest locations. If you're interested in learning more about the grant, this is the key website and link to the webinar. There's going to be a webinar tomorrow on Thursday, January 6th at 12 noon that you can live stream on DPD's YouTube page. If you don't, if you don't copy down the link here, all you have to do when you actually go to YouTube is just look up Chicago DPD and things like that, and it will pop right up and you can watch that webinar live tomorrow at noon. Additionally, if you want to read more about the grant, you can go to chicago.gov/Chi Recovery Grant. That's where you're going to find more information. Eventually, that's where you'll find the application. And my guess is that's also where a recording of the webinar will be posted if you miss it tomorrow. So I just want to add that on here for any small businesses that may be interested. Nora, do you have anything to add?
I don't. I think we had a lot of great questions today. Thank you, everybody. I see we have one specific question I'm hoping LaTanya will answer about a form. But we really appreciate it. We hope you will definitely apply. Please feel free to reach out to any of us. Our contact information is there. I answered somebody's question. I know Kim mentioned this at the beginning, but folks, they will be sent the presentation, correct? The recording or the deck? I'm sorry, I don't remember, Kim.
The deck actually will be sent. However, if you actually want to hear our voices once again, you can also go back to DPD's YouTube channel and a recording will be there, which you are welcome to watch again. I think LaTanya is answering that specific question here. So I'm going to leave the webinar open for one more minute, Nora, but otherwise we're all set. We appreciate you all and we're excited to see your applications. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
It might be easier if I just responded live. Is that okay?
Okay, that's not a problem, LaTanya. I'm so sorry. I didn't realize
I wasn't moving fast enough. So in regards to the property owner / tenant affidavit, we actually will provide you with that form once we process your application. So it's not something that you have to worry about now, but if you want to have a conversation with the property owner now, just to get an idea of what you can do, that way you can kind of leave that door open for when you do receive the document from us. When we request the documents needed to complete your application, you can have them sign it, you fill out the scope of work, get it notarized, and have it submitted back to us.
And just for clarification, the question was if you're a tenant, how are you able to prove that the landlord is fine with you going ahead doing the project? And so that's the form that LaTanya was specifically referring to. Yes. Okay, super. All right, I appreciate everyone again. Thank you so much.